It's time to start your morning by taking 5. Here's your host, Matt McMaster.
You're listening to Take 5, a quick 5-minute take on the biggest things happening in Nebraska sports. I am your host, Matt McMaster, and today we are going to be talking about Husker baseball. The incredibly disappointing Husker baseball team this season that began the year ranked in the top 25 in the country, who got off to not the greatest start early on in the year, but did defeat Vanderbilt in one of their first couple games of the season. And then it kind of started to fall off during the Louisiana series, and now they are not even in the Big Ten tournament after losing consecutive series to USC, to UCLA, and to Washington at home. And while all that sounds incredibly disappointing, and maybe you had already given up on the season, you had said, oh, this team was overrated. You know, it doesn't matter that we had a lot of bats coming back. It doesn't matter that, apparently the back end of the bullpen was supposed to have more depth. It doesn't matter that, unfortunately you had preseason All-American Mason McConaughey go down earlier in the year. It could have given you all the reasons to give up on this team. But as soon as you thought you were out, they sucked you back in and they beat Oregon State, the number 5 ranked team in the country, twice. And they boosted their RPI, which is basically the net ranking of baseball, which is incredibly important when it comes to making the NCAA tournament. They boosted their RPI from in the 120s all the way in to 75, up 40 places after 2 victories. And you're thinking, all right, they got an opportunity. They got Creighton. They got Omaha in the midweek. Then they could play a winnable series against Rutgers, parlay that into some momentum. If you're looking to be in about 6, 7, 8 games over 500 heading into the end of April into May, maybe you have a shot at an at-large bid, but you're giving yourself your best opportunity heading into the Big Ten tournament to run the table and win it again like you did last year, and then bang. Yesterday happened, and the day before happened. Husker baseball did not do the first 2 things that I said about 45 seconds ago, which is beat Creighton and Omaha. Now, they lose to Creighton 9-5. Creighton's a good baseball team this year. They have a pretty solid lineup. They have a winning record. Ed Service is in his last year of being the manager for the Creighton baseball team. It seems like that team, already pretty talented, are playing for their guy. And that game, if you had watched it or listened to it like I did, at the end of the day, Creighton won that game. They made the big outs when they needed to at the end of the game. They had the big hits when they needed to at the end of the game. Nebraska wasn't able to get that done. Plain and simple. And so Nebraska, while you would have enjoyed for them to win that game, and that would have been a lot into building that momentum off of that great Oregon State series, they just lost. That's just baseball. That happens. You're going to lose games like that. But what happened yesterday against Omaha, 11-9 defeat, was absolutely unacceptable. And I want to give all the credit in the world to Omaha, the Omaha Mavericks men's baseball, to their head coach Evan Porter for yesterday's effort, because they were down 9-4, and they end up fighting back, clawing back, 7 unanswered runs, win the game 11-9. Their pitching staff really beefed up toward the end of the game. Through, I think it was 4, maybe 5, I'm not certain, scoreless innings to end it. Nebraska still had their opportunities, but like I said, Omaha made the big outs when it counted the most. So all the credit to them in the world. And I don't want, what I'm about to say to sound like I'm disparaging Omaha, because they played a hell of a game yesterday and they deserved to win like they did. But what happened with Nebraska baseball yesterday was absolutely embarrassing. To be up 9-4, to be absolutely hitting the crap out of the baseball in the first 4 innings of the game, to be just all over Omaha pitchers and then to bottom out, to 0 out, is embarrassing and unacceptable. They were absolutely crushing the ball, and then all of a sudden it's like the faucet turned off and they were no longer there. And it's kind of the offense and just the team in the nutshell, right? 1 second or 1 game of the one part of the season, you're thinking, man, this offense is good, it's clicking, it looks incredible, and then that, boom, next game it's gone, or next series it's gone. Unfortunately for the Huskers, it happened within innings. going from just being absolutely incredible to being an absolute zero. And that's just, that inconsistency has run rampant through the entire year. And frankly, it unfortunately has become their identity. And the last thing that you want your identity to be is being inconsistent. And then talk about the pitching staff, top to bottom. All the different pitchers they used, it did not matter who they brought in, who started, who came in, who relieved. It walks, control issues. And I'm not going to act like the umpire was incredible yesterday. He definitely had his problems. But the 12 walks, 3 hit batters, 2 defensive errors. And then on top of that, Nebraska had 16 total hits. Omaha had 8 total hits. And yet they still lost the game by 2 runs. It's just... It's almost as if you can't take any result of this team seriously because you can't get excited about Oregon State, about beating those top teams, because you know very well this team can trot out against, teams from lesser conferences and lose to those teams. And then when they lose, you're like, you get even more mad because you know that this team that lost this game, that played so poorly, can very easily go out and beat one of the top teams in the country because they've done it 3 times this year. And so just the inconsistency of this team and the up and down, it's just been incredibly frustrating to watch. And from a fan perspective, it's been incredibly tough to root for. And it's so disappointing when you consider where you thought they might go this season, the steps that they might take, the guys that they brought back, the experience that they had, the superstar that they had with Mason McConaughey, to think all of that together was the expectation of this team was, hey, they're going to make the NCAA tournament and they might even host a regional, and then to be where they are right now, dropping 2 weekday games to 2 in-state teams, both in entirely different fashions, and being inconsistent, especially in yesterday's game against Omaha. It's just an incredibly disappointing spot to be in if you're Nebraska baseball. So with that, that's been Take 5, and I've been Matt McMaster.